I'm Dr. Catherine Fike, and I am a member of the school board of the Southmoreland School District. I'm very deeply devoted to the success of our public schools, and unfortunately, over the years, I've watched this happen where the schools have simply become a cash cow for specific individuals to glean profit for themselves. People do not complain about public education. They complain about the cost of public education. I have been on the school board for 3 years, and never once during that period of time have I heard the word plan. Recently, there was a contract settled between the district and the teachers' union, and in that process, a fact finder's report was issued, and specific statistics were given about the economic situation in our school district. The conclusion was all 4 Southmoreland School District subdivisions have higher poverty populations for individuals and families than there is in the state and the nation. The school district itself is one of the largest local employers. The school district's population has declined since 2000. The teachers who are employed by the school district are being financially compensated by a population that is older, poorer, and less well educated than the populations of our counties, state, or nation. I want to present a program today, a PowerPoint presentation that deals with not the present, but with the future, what's going to happen in the next 3 years in the Southmoreland School District. Today we're going to discuss a long-range financial perspective for the Southmoreland School District versus this plan to cut the immediate deficit. The 3-year financial outlook for the Southmoreland School District is very dire, and present budget concerns are only the beginning. We must look at the total scope of the problem, not just this year's deficit of concern. The deficit given by William Salem, business manager, on 5/17/12 was $601,000. Between 2012 and 15, the new teacher contract raises are $991,000. The following information for pension obligations comes directly from Dr. Jack Molnar, and they are the numbers from 2012, 13, 14, and 15, and when you put all of this together, the total scope of the problem is almost $9.5 million. This does not include spending with health care or other increases. The million-dollar question is what cuts are needed to offset this additional spending, as unsustainable tax increases must be taken off the table. We have identified the problem of nearly a $9.5 million debt, and we're going to look at why tax increases must be off the table. Over half of our district qualifies for free and reduced lunch. 14% of local residents live below the poverty level, 1 of every 7 people. Local private sector income has fallen from $33,000 to $19,900 in 10 years. Our residents are being taxed for Southmoreland School District employee benefits that they cannot afford for themselves and their families, like health care, retirement bonuses, life insurance, dental and vision insurance, and huge pensions. The underemployment rate in our district is 38.7%. Nearly 18% of our district population is already retired, and this number continues to increase, projected to be 25% by the year 2015. Median household income is $35,992, and student enrollment continues to decline. We have lost 25% of our students in 20 years. In the last 10 years, we lost 445 students. At a 1-to-20 ratio, we should have cut 22 teachers during that time. Also, we have lost 16,862 residents from our district in the past 10 years. The conclusion is that tax increases or any plan to get more money out of parents or the private sector to cover new spending obligations must be off the table in this economic climate. Even with the fact that 65 cents of every dollar is subsidized by the state, that leaves nearly $2,500,000 of local money that will be needed to cover new costs. At $100,000 a mil, we will have to raise taxes locally by 25 mils by the year 2015. The spending must decrease starting immediately. We have identified recommended solutions for this huge problem of nearly $9.5 million in debt. The Southmoreland School District has a spending problem, not a revenue problem, and it can only be solved using this approach. Spending has risen from $5,000 a student in 1990 to $13,248 a student in 2012. This simply cannot continue. People blame special education. That is not what is driving up the cost. Our administration needs to make cuts equal to $3,142,000 a year just to offset new commitments. We must accept that no more money is expected from the state or federal government to cover these new commitments, as they themselves are deeply in the red. We got ourselves in this mess by not downsizing with decreasing enrollment, by offering extravagant benefit packages, by spending lavishly on extracurricular stuff like multi-million-dollar football stadium, etc., and the necessary board actions to solve the identified problem of a $9.5 million debt are this. I came to the budget meeting on 5/10/12 prepared to address the spending problem, having toured facilities and researched matters in depth, and I requested that the tax increase be excised from the budget. I looked at budgetary reserves, outsourcing technology, administration cuts, Alberton and administration building consolidation, building underutilization, tax collection costs, professional staff reductions, declining enrollment, supplemental contracts, etc. At that time, other directors were asked for their ideas. The silence was deafening. No budget reductions were offered by anyone other than Mr. Alt. Since the other directors had no other real cost containment suggestions, it is assumed that their plan is to deplete the fund balance and raise taxes and avoid difficult choices. This is unacceptable. What about our future? What about it's for the kids? Keep your eye on the problem. It's only going to increase. The board lost sight of it's for the children when, for example, they nixed the traditional overnight 6th grade field trip to Laurelville and went on to vote an additional $991,000 for teacher raises in the next 3 years. This board has a lot of tough decisions which must be made, and they will not affect student performance. The board needs to concentrate on education, not entertainment. I've come not to expect help from the administration. I believe this has to be a grassroots effort led by the board and the community to save the district from financial ruin and state takeover. $3,142,000 a year is a lot of cuts and cost containment. There is no alternative. We cannot increase taxes. The federal and state governments are broke, and we can't further deplete the fund balance, which is already headed for extinction. The good news is that education will not suffer if we decrease the administrative staff to the recommended 4% level, decrease nursing staff to that required by law, 1 to 1,500, cut guidance by 40%, reduce the library staff to 1 elementary and 1 secondary, and privatize technology services. We need to close the administration building and relocate the administrative staff to underutilized high school building areas. We need to rent or sell the administration building. We need to close Alberton and relocate grades K and 1 to the Scottdale campus. Then we can rent or sell Alberton. We need to decrease the teaching staff consistent with enrollment declines and the state teacher-student ratio of 1 to 26 in basic education. These suggestions and others need to be implemented beginning yesterday and over the next 3 years to avoid increasing financial distress to the Southmoreland School District. Another concern that I have is that teaching to the PSSA test has resulted in curricular constriction. We need to return to a broad spectrum program of studies that prepares our students with lifetime skills for their future. This graph that I want to show you is evidence of what is happening. The red line shows the combined SAT scores in the nation. The blue line is what is happening in Southmoreland. These are our best and brightest students who are college bound. They peaked in the years 2003, 2004. That is when the PSSA started to be given. If you look at that graph, you can see that as soon as the PSSA started to be given, SAT scores dropped. This is not an acceptable pattern for our children. In conclusion, there are many ways that we can help our students, we can help our community, we can cut our budget and still maintain a high-quality education program. And I have asked the school board to consider this information when they make their decisions about what is going to happen in the school district, not just now, but for the next 3 years and beyond. I would like to quote Ronald Reagan, who was the 40th President of the United States of America. He said, "You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We will preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we will sentence them to take the first step into 1,000 years of darkness. If we fail, at least let our children and our children's children say of us, we justified our brief moment here. We did all that could be done." Thank you.